Today we're exploring Chögyam Trungpa's book, The Sacred Path of the Warrior. Trungpa was a Tibetan Buddhist who brought Tibetan Buddhism to the U.S. in the early 1970s. And in 1974, approximately, he was in Boulder, Colorado. He started the Naropa Institute, and then north of Boulder, he also started the Rocky Mountain Drala Center, which is now called the Drala Mountain Center. Interestingly, I was in the Boulder area going to the University of Colorado, finishing my university degree in the middle 70s also. Never met him, but interesting coincidence being close by. So you may ask, like, well, does Shambhala have anything to do with mental training and warriorship and what we're exploring here in these lessons and these books that we're examining? If we remember that in the traditional warrior moves toward the enemy in the external environment, in combat, and there's a quality to that, moving towards something that is fearful, something that's stressful, something that's challenging. So here, we're talking mental training, so being able to have those same qualities as we do our inner journey of self-discovery, then there can be really valuable if we can draw some lessons from Shambhala to help with that. So we're going to begin exploring this with how Shambhala defines warrior. Trungpa says that warriorship is not making war with the world or with each other, even with ourselves. The word warrior in Tibetan comes from the word pawu, P-A-W-O, which means one who is brave. And here we can see how bravery is an aspect of warriorship in our definition also. We use the word courage, for describing how we understand it. I found it a lot easier to be brave in the external environment, whether it's rock climbing or other kinds of challenges like that are physically scary or demanding. What's really harder is the inner journey, dealing with the fears that come up from traveling in that direction. And we're doing mental training, so it has a lot to do with this inner journey and having some tools for being able to navigate it better. Shambhala teaches that the first principle is not to be afraid of yourself. Not to be afraid of yourself. Are you afraid of yourself? Well, when you dig into your negative psychology, dig into your mental training, doing this inner work, you can reveal some things that are not so nice to look at. And that requires bravery, requires courage to meet that, accept it, and work with it. And being brave helps you take steps in that direction. So what you can expect to learn in this lesson is we're going to investigate mental training through the lens of Shambhala, through some various aspects like developing fearlessness through vulnerability, like not labeling our reality in ways that keep us from being able to perceive it accurately, or how appreciation plays into being able to interact with the challenges that we have better. So you should be able to answer a couple of questions, through this lesson. And the first one is, am I afraid of myself? And the second one is, what are the tools that I can use so I can diminish that fear? One thing to remember is my two books, The Rock Warrior's Way and Espresso Lessons, for digging deeper into how the Warrior's Way does mental training. Shambhala uses fearlessness to understand how to develop this bravery. Trungpa says that fearlessness is not the reduction of fear, but moving beyond fear. Fear manifests itself as anxiety or nervousness or restlessness. We look into the fear to see what's hiding there. We need to be able to look below this mental armor that we tend to put around our fears. Trungpa says that the first thing we find when we start penetrating through that mental armor is sadness. When you slow down, when you relax into what is, and you're able to perceive more of what's going on under that armor. And what you find, according to Trungpa, is this sadness. It's a certain vulnerability. And he suggests to be with it. Don't try to suppress it. Just let it reveal what's there. When you soften your armor like this, it helps you develop self-compassion, especially if you can accept it and work with it. When you soften your armor like this is when fearlessness is born. This is when you demonstrate that you're not afraid of yourself. The foundational aspect of Shambhala is to see reality beyond the lens of good and bad. Trungpa says that when you can do this, you can connect with a basic goodness in the world. Basic goodness is not a for or against perspective. He says it's kind of like sunlight. Sunlight shines on the whole world. And this is what perceiving the basic goodness also gives us that perspective. And he says that the goal of warriorship is to connect with this basic goodness within ourselves. You don't develop a for or against relationship or perspective with yourself. You're seeking a more clear way of understanding what's being revealed and not being repulsed or rejecting any different aspects of that. Trungpa says that if you can't develop the ability to see this basic goodness within yourself, then it's hard or maybe impossible to be able to see that basic goodness in other people. The first step for being able to connect with this basic goodness, Trungpa says, is appreciating what you have. Now, it's easy to appreciate the comforts that you have. A simple cup of coffee in the morning, even though it's just a little thing, you can appreciate that. What's more difficult is appreciating the challenges. Can you appreciate them? The second aspect of connecting with this basic goodness is finding the essence of who you are, like beyond thinking. Wishful thinking doesn't help. Labeling a situation good or bad colors your reality, and it's not helpful. These unconsciously sabotage your own learning process. Appreciation helps you accept your current circumstances. It changes your mindset. It changes what you focus on. So, can you appreciate the challenges in your life? This is when you're demonstrating bravery. This is when you're demonstrating that you're not afraid of yourself. Another important aspect of Shambhala is reconnecting with the nowness of reality. And Trungpa says that this is connecting with a primordial awareness. It ties you to this basic goodness within yourself and within the world. It's not a reactive perspective for or against what's coming up in your awareness or in your life. You connect with this primordial awareness through what I call the unmoved mind, which I introduced in Warrior Lesson number 9. This grounds you somatically, grounds your attention somatically in your body before thinking takes place. And it helps you recognize the challenge, accept it, and learn from it before you start labeling it and thinking about it. So relax your mind. Your mind is constantly trying to problem solve. Be with what is as a starting point. You need to be able to perceive just what is going on before you start thinking about it and taking action. This helps you begin letting go of anxiety and just perceive what's actually there. Expand your awareness and simply perceive what is as a starting point. When you're grounded in this primordial awareness, this somatic attention, then you feel less isolated. You feel more connected. And Shambhala calls this natural magic or natural wisdom. And they have a name for it. They call it drala. It's seeing from the heart. You feel inwardly and you feel outwardly into your environment. The key point is that you're not separate. That's an illusory reality. A truer reality is that you're inextricably interconnected with the world around you. When you can see through the heart, see through drala, then you establish this connection and a better perspective with this interconnectedness that you have. Drala connects you with the essence of reality. They use an analogy in the book, the water of water, the fire of fire, the earth of earth, the air of air. You're looking to the essence of these substances, you might say, before you start thinking about them, creating opinions about them, and labeling them in any way. You're connected simply with perceiving their essence. This is where the alertness of the flexible and agile mind comes into play. And I also introduced this mind, in the last lesson. You have an alertness before thinking takes place. You can invoke drala in three ways. First is creating sacred space. They call this external drala. You're looking to your physical environment. You're caring for it. You're paying attention to it. Paying attention to the details. This creates a sacred space. Number two is you use your two minds that I described a moment ago for internal drala. This is where you create a oneness with your body. You have a fit and healthy body. You pay attention to the habits that you have to see what's helpful, what's not helpful. Because then you can make course corrections. And number three, you trust how life is unfolding. This is secret drala. It's the product of the internal and the external drala. And Trungpa has a word for this. He calls it wind horse. So when warriors express wind horse, they feel joy and sadness simultaneously. This gives you the perspective of the totality of reality, and it kind of tempers how life is flowing and how you can trust with that flow. Ground yourself in simple perception before thinking. Thinking not allowed here at this point. We use the acronym BEB for breathing, eyes, body a lot in our training, and so we're going to use it here also. You're getting into this grounded observational state with the breathing, eyes, body elements. So first, with breathing, just inhale, exhale. Do that 2 or 3 times to ground your attention somatically in your body. And then eyes, we can have a tendency to get tunnel vision, where it contracts our perspective unconsciously a lot of times. And so we can do something very tangibly, like shaking our face a little bit and blinking our eyes to relax our muscles and expand our attention consciously more peripherally, so we can have a broader perspective to take in information. And number 3, the body, we can also have an unconscious tendency to contract, so we want to just expand our body and elevate, lift our head so that we stretch the neck. Ground your awareness, your attention, in this grounded observational state around breathing, eyes, body. When you notice thinking, just redirect your attention toward these breathing, eyes, body elements. This is the warrior's discipline. Trungpa calls this meditative awareness. It gives you a path to get back into balance when you lose it.